Hi everyone, Audrey here from the Heartfelt CFO team. If we haven't met yet, I work behind the scenes with Margot and our clients, particularly on the bookkeeping and financial side of your business. Being this close to the numbers gives me an interesting perspective on growth. You would think that as the practice grows, things would start to feel easier. More clients, more revenue, a bigger team. You're reaching milestones you may have spent years working towards. Well, but what I've seen is that growth can actually create an entirely new level of financial complexity. And that's what I want to talk about today. Your practice is growing, so why doesn't it necessarily feel easier? Sometimes the practice grows faster than the financial structure supporting it. And when that happens, you can have a successful practice on paper while still feeling uncertain behind the scenes. Maybe you can relate to this feeling of it was supposed to feel different. You remember when you wanted more clients, then you wanted to build your team, then you wanted to reach the next revenue milestone, and you got there. But instead of thinking, great, now I can relax, you find yourself asking completely different questions. Why does cash still feel light? Why is payroll taking so much? How much should I actually be setting aside? Are we really as profitable as I think we are? Can the practice afford what I want to do next? The practice grew, but so did the financial decisions, and that's something I see from my side of the work. When a practice is smaller, the owner can sometimes keep a lot of the financial picture in their head. As the business grows, that becomes harder. There are more transactions, more expenses, more people, more obligations, more moving pieces. And eventually, I pretty much know what's going on isn't enough anymore. This is one of the things I've learned working with Margot and being part of the Heartfelt team. A bigger practice isn't automatically a financially stronger practice. Growth and financial strength are not the same thing, and I think that's an important distinction. Revenue can go up while expenses go up just as quickly. You can add more clients while margins get smaller. You can have more money coming through the business while feeling like there's less available. You can have beautiful financial statements and still not know what decision to make next. That's why we don't look at growth as just how much revenue did the business make. We want to understand what's happening underneath that revenue because revenue tells us something, but it doesn't tell us everything. If your practice is growing, I want to give you three things to think about. Three things that need to grow with your practice. First, your financial visibility. The bigger the practice becomes, the more important it is to understand what's actually happening with the money. Not just what's in the bank, but where is the money going? What does it cost to operate the practice? What is happening with payroll? What's happening with profitability? What obligations are coming? What patterns are showing up month after month? This is where good bookkeeping becomes incredibly important. If the information underneath everything isn't accurate and organized, it's very difficult to make good decisions from it. But accurate numbers are still only the beginning. Second is your financial structure. The systems that worked when you were smaller may not be enough anymore. Maybe when it was just you, things were fairly simple. As the practice grows, there are more processes that need to happen consistently. Books need to be closed, accounts need to be reconciled, cash needs to be monitored, taxes need to be anticipated, financial information needs to be reviewed. And the owner shouldn't have to personally chase every piece of that. Growth needs structure underneath it. Otherwise, the bigger the practice becomes, the more the owner ends up carrying. Your decision making is the third. This is where I think everything comes together. The goal of having better financial information isn't simply to have cleaner books, it's to be able to use that information. Can we afford this? Why did cash change? What happens if revenue changes? What should we be preparing for? Where is the business getting stronger? What might what might need additional attention? Working alongside Marco has shown me this is where bookkeeping and CFO work connect. Bookkeeping helps create the financial foundation. Then the deeper work is understanding what that information means and using it to help lead the business forward. So I have three questions for practice owners. If your practice has been growing, ask yourself first, what has become harder financially as my practice has grown? Don't dismiss the answer. It may be telling you where your structure hasn't caught up yet. Second, if my revenue has grown, do I understand where that additional money is going? You don't need to know every transaction from memory, but you should understand the story. And finally, do I feel more financially confident today than I did when my practice was smaller? I think that's a powerful question because if the business has doubled, but your financial confidence hasn't grown with it, that's worth paying attention to. What healthy growth should create? Imagine the opposite. Your practice grows, and instead of the financial side becoming chaotic, it's more structured. You understand the numbers, you know what's happening with cash, you know what needs attention. You aren't waiting until tax season to find out where you stand. And when an important decision comes up, you're not starting from, I hope we can afford this. You have information to work from. That's a very different experience of growth. And from what I see behind the scenes, that's what good financial structure is supposed to create. Not more reports for you to read, but more visibility, more structure, and better information for the decisions ahead. If there's one thing I'd love for you to take away from today's conversation, it's this. Your financial structure needs to grow with your practice. If your practice is getting bigger, but the financial side feels harder, don't automatically assume that's simply the price of growth. It may be a sign that something underneath the growth needs to catch up. And I'd actually love to hear from practice owners watching. As your practice has grown, what has become harder financially? Is it cash flow, payroll, taxes, understanding profitability, knowing what you can afford? Drop your answer in the comments. Margot and I would love to hear what you're experiencing. And if today's conversation made you realize that your practice may have outgrown some of the financial systems you started with, we have something complimentary for you. Margot created a training specifically around growing your mental health practice, and we'll put the next step in the comments so you can access it. Thank you for spending time with me today. I'm Audrey from the Heartfelt CFO team, and I hope this gave you a different way to look at the growth happening inside your practice. I'll see you next time. Thanks.